here today to talk about Daisy Kutter, but there's going to be a couple other things that I'm going to bring up along the way. Now, this is by Kazu Kibuishi. I don't know what the first book or series of his that I found was, because after he did this, he started Amulet. I'm a huge fan of this book. Waiting on book 9 patiently. Take your time, don't rush. But this series is great. I recommend this to everyone. I have been recommending it for years. It is a fantastic series. This is book 1. It is a planned 9-book series. Just waiting on the last one. So this came out in 2008, and I have a second print somehow of 2008 there. And this, I just said I have a second print of. This came out in 2006. But around the same time, he was also working on Flight, which I think is how I first learned of Kibuishi. Flight was everywhere at the time. I was broke. I was going to bookstores, reading comics there. Flight was unavoidable. I was also friends with a bunch of artists at the time that were trying to or successfully getting into Flight. So Flight was huge. It was a huge deal at the time. As I said, this came out and then he moved on to Amulet. Amulet has been a huge success, I'm guessing, 9 books later. But Googling this now, it's easy to find a bunch of posts from back then, from the early aughts, where people are hoping that the series continues, and I'm wondering if that is an aspirational one, sort of like a lot of modern movies, throwing a teaser at the end just in case they do well enough to get a sequel. I do hope he returns to this world after Amulet, because I do find the character interesting, the world is very interesting as well, and I'm a fan. I'm glad that I have reread this in the course of me reading through everything in this room. That is a lot of talking without talking about the book yet. If you haven't guessed from this cover, it is a Western. It is a futuristic Western, because if you can also see there's a robot here in the background. It is a Western with robots. And this kind of thing always reminds me of my friend Gabe. This is my last tangent, I think, I swear, but so he did this for me a very long time ago. You can see a date down there, 2003, but I still love this. I think about it, and I will throw a link, if not in the description, I will have a link up here to Gabe. Let's finally talk about the book. Daisy Kutter is the main character. She is a former bandit that is now trying to run a goods store. She remains on the frontier. The opening pages, she is playing with a toy gun. Early hints of her history. It's very much West frontier setting with a sort of AT-AT style bowl there. The art is grayscale, not color, if that's important to anyone. General store, that's her shop. The basic premise of the story here is she gets herself into a bind and is offered a job. So I mentioned that she is a former bandit, and this is sort of a standard story. I know modern movies do this as well. So the owner of a train hires her to steal from that train. He is trying to test the security of it, and this is her going through that. There is a possibly predictable double cross involved along the way. She has a team. There is a shared history with a sheriff in here. So it's roughly 150 pages. It is a well fleshed out character and history, and the world. I guess the world is less fleshed out than the characters, but that doesn't matter. It's a Western. There are robots. I don't know what else you need to know. But I've been a longtime fan of Westerns. I think that is from my mother, who was watching a bunch of Clint Eastwood stuff in my youth. So specifically the Dollar Trilogy, and then later Dirty Harry. So it wasn't just Westerns, but Westerns did feature prominently in my movie viewing youth. feel like even if you are familiar with the work of Kibuishi, you might be unfamiliar with Daisy Kutter. As I said, because Flight was huge at the time, and Amulet, I believe, has been a runaway success for him, I see nothing but praise for this series, and I am among those ranks. But if you are familiar with Kibuishi, you might not be familiar with Daisy Kutter, and I recommend picking this up if you can find it. It is a great story, and as I said, I do hope that he returns to this world.